This man revolutionized science. He discovered gravity, invented calculus, and changed physics forever. But there's one thing your textbook won't tell you. Isaac Newton believed God was real, and his proof? It's hiding in plain sight. Imagine if I told you that the most brilliant mind in the history of science, the man who unlocked the secrets of the universe, believed in God so deeply that it shaped everything he did. His name was Isaac Newton. You know him from your physics class. Gravity, the laws of motion, calculus, revolutionary stuff. But what they do unteach you is what Newton actually believed about why the universe works the way it does. Here's the hook. Newton didn't see science and God as opposites. He saw them as the same thing. And his evidence, it's still sitting right in front of us, ignored by most of the scientific establishment. Let's start with the basics. Isaac Newton was born on January 4, 1643, in a small village called Woolsthorpe in England. His father was a farmer, successful one, but still a farmer. Nobody expected this kid to become immortal. But then something incredible happened. When Newton was just 23 years old, the Great Plague hit England. Cambridge University shut down. Most students went home. Newton went home, too, to his family farm in the English countryside. What happened next is one of the most productive periods in the entire history of science. In just 18 months, locked away from the world during the plague, Newton developed his theory of gravity, made breakthroughs in optics and light, invented calculus, and advanced his understanding of motion and forces. Scientists call this his year of wonders. Some call it the most important year in the history of science. But here's what's crucial. All of this genius, all of this discovery, happened in a deeply religious context. Newton was a Christian, a serious Christian, not just in name, but in daily practice. Newton's faith wasn't something separate from his science, it was foundational to it. He spent enormous amounts of time studying theology. Talking about a man who wrote more words on theology and biblical interpretation than he did on physics and mathematics. This might shock you, but Newton was deeply interested in biblical prophecy. He studied alchemy. He investigated the secrets of the ancient world. To him, all of this was part of understanding God's creation. Here's a quote that captures his worldview perfectly. This most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. Think about what he's saying. The system, the order, the mathematics, the precision. To Newton, all of it pointed to an intelligent designer. He wasn't saying this as an afterthought. He wasn't being forced to say it. This was central to his understanding of why science works at all. Here's where Newton's thinking gets really interesting. He believed that God had written 2 books. Book 1 was the Bible, God's revealed word. Book 2 was nature, God's creation, written in the language of mathematics. To Newton, doing science wasn't about proving God wrong or finding naturalistic explanations for everything. It was about reading the second book. It was about understanding God's design. This is what he meant when he said, "I have a fundamental belief in the Bible as the Word of God, written by those who were inspired. I study the Bible daily." And in another place, "We account the Scriptures of God to be the most sublime philosophy. I find more sure marks of authenticity in the Bible than in any profane history whatsoever." Let me translate that for modern ears. Newton, the guy who revolutionized science, believed the Bible was more reliable and more trustworthy than secular historical documents. That's not the narrative you hear in university classrooms, is it? But it gets better. Newton wrote, "If I have seen further, It is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Most people think he meant earlier scientists, and he partly did. But Newton believed those giants included the wisdom of ancient biblical texts and the revelation of God through nature. He saw science as part of a larger spiritual quest. Newton's laws of motion and gravity revealed something stunning. The universe operates according to precise mathematical principles. It's orderly, it's predictable, it's elegant. And this discovery actually strengthened his faith rather than weakening it. See, here's the thing. If you're an atheist, the precision of the universe is a problem. You have to explain why the universe is so perfectly fine-tuned for life, so mathematically elegant, so ordered without an intelligent designer. But to Newton, it was obvious. This kind of precision, this kind of order, this kind of mathematical beauty, it screamed intelligent design. He famously said, "Gravity explains the motions of the planets, but it cannot explain who set the planets in motion." Newton understood something that modern materialists struggle with. Discovering the how does not eliminate the need for the who. Gravity explains how planets move, but it doesn't explain why the system exists at all, why it's designed this way, or why it's comprehensible to the human mind. Newton believed the answer to those questions was God. And he wasn't alone. Many of the greatest minds in the scientific revolution, Kepler, Boyle, Hooke, they all saw their discoveries as a way of honoring God, not displacing him. So here's the uncomfortable question. If Isaac Newton, one of the greatest scientists who ever lived, believed so deeply in God, why doesn't anybody talk about it? Why do your high school textbooks leave this out? The answer is more complex than simple atheism. It's about how we've decided to tell the story of science versus religion. In the modern era, there's been a deliberate effort to separate science from theology. And on some levels, that makes sense. Science should be based on evidence and methodology, not dogma. But in the process, we've airbrushed out the faith of some of the greatest scientists in history. We teach Newton's laws. We don't teach Newton's God. We celebrate his discoveries. We minimize his convictions. And the result is that generations of students grow up thinking that faith and scientific genius are incompatible, that belief in God and rigorous thinking are opposites. Newton proves they're not. Let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Newton's faith made him a better scientist. I'm saying his faith was part of who he was, and it didn't prevent him from being brilliant. In fact, his worldview, the idea that the universe is comprehensible because it was designed by an intelligent mind, might have actually motivated his discoveries. There's something powerful about the belief that understanding nature is understanding God's handiwork. It gives your work meaning, purpose, importance. Today, we live in a time where we're retold we have to choose. Either you believe in science, or you believe in God. Either you're rational, or you're religious. Isaac Newton didn't see it that way. Newton shows us that you can be rigorous and faithful, curious and reverent, brilliant and believing, a genius and a Christian. The greatest mind of his age looked at the universe and saw evidence of God, not despite the mathematics, because of it, and whether you ultimately agree with Newton's conclusions or not, his example shows us something important. The relationship between science and faith is way more complicated than our modern culture wants to admit. It's time we stopped hiding that truth. Isaac Newton spent his life reading two books, the Bible and nature. He found them to be consistent. He found them both pointing to the same truth, an intelligent, powerful God. The world changed because he looked at the universe and asked the deepest questions. Maybe it's time we asked them too. What do you think? Does Newton's faith change how you see science? Or how you see faith? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed learning about one of history's greatest minds, don't forget to subscribe. We've got more untold stories about scientists, faith, and the real history of discovery that textbooks don't teach you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.